This is Kal Katr, the Kal Katr, and this is continuing of AdamaCon, which allegedly ended last night, but apparently didn't, because we were still editing Valley Stories journals, which doesn't mean anything to you guys out there. Yeah, so I wanted to chime in on that. And tomorrow is May the 4th, Star Wars, so we could do something there, but then second COVID shot is after that, Thursday. So yeah, probably not doing anything on May the 4th, actually. If I do something, it'll be saying, oh, I finished editing something. This is real brief. Yeah, apparently there was yet more misconceptions and confusions on the story. Yeah, there was apparently there were a couple of spurious student characters from the era, from the martial sportists, let's call it, the Junks One era. And yes, they did have actually flings. Went off and got married and left. And then, yeah. So that did happen. Just not to Kitty. Other people. Just clarify that. As far as I know, nothing happened with him. Of course, that's very vague because can't name names. So, yeah, but one of them did show up at the church at one point, and she'd been married and she had a teenager and a little kid. And says and it wasn't. They didn't reveal who they were. They came in around 2010 or so, 2009, 2010 or so, and they left around 2015. And it wasn't until they were there for 5 years. It wasn't until the very last day of the very last year. It's not directly explicitly said in the journal, but I did add a historian's note at the beginning of when they were met to significance, saying that these characters. There was a character named Lisa. I just haven't even Lisa. I don't name the name. And she came back with a new name because she was married, and she said at the very end of all that, her daughters and her husband, yeah, we trained with you at the academy years ago. I'm Lisa from the famous one from the thing. And it's like, oh, that's where we knew each other. Oh, okay. It happened a lot during that time period. Yeah. There's another thing that I cut out in the other journals that I did tape but cut out about Dave and Buster's. I figured, why put that in there? That's just a damper on the whole thing. I clip that. So, long story short with that, I'll just say that it didn't work out at Dave & Buster's. It was several months in 2000. Didn't work out. So, or 2000, 2001. It was 2000. And then I quit. And when I quit, because everybody was being obnoxious and mean to me, I said to the manager guys, I said, one day karma will get you. I believe in karma, but I thought maybe they did. So it was all one day I will out on the street. I'll see you out on the street in the future, and you will all be you two will be destitute. I'll be able to do, and you'll beg for food from me. Which is a weird thing to say, but it is from the Bible. It's from the brothers and the wheat bowing down and all that. It's from the Bible. So this version of that story yesterday that went on for like 20 minutes is going to be less than 10. So basically, it's the story of Joseph and his brother, Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, Joseph in the technical and the special coat of many colors that gets set up. His brother, he tells his brothers that are jealous of him, one day they will bow to him. Basically, that's what I meant. It didn't come out that way. There were also, a dozen or so years later, I was at one of those conventions, and I was out by that fancy La Boulangerie place, and the Boulange, and I was dressed as a normal person, kind of upwardsly. I was going to the Boulangerie, and I had just passed the this other place, and that had snack food, and I had some chips with me. I had lunch, and then I was going to the coffee shop, which is a weird thing to do, but yeah, that's what I was doing. I was going to go to the coffee shop, get a biscuit or something for dessert, because it was a pastry shop. So I'm on my way there, and lo and behold, one of those manager guys who had, let's not name his name, but he spent time in jail for being a creeper, even though he was accusing me of being a creeper. I was never a creeper. That's what they were accusing me of. I was never a creeper. And never. And they tried to do, all sorts of ways to accuse everyone else. It wasn't just me. He and 130 other employees were laid off from that Dave & Buster's. The 3 friends that worked there were spirited to another one while they cleaned house. Other incidents happened that we'll not go into. Needless to say, I had nothing to do with. And this character shows up a dozen years later, and he's homeless, and he's disgusting looking, but it's him, and he's all blah, and he's all got a beard, and he's all scrabbly looking, and he realizes in his epiphany in his mind, he remembered the last time he saw me, I said that I would find him on the street, and he would be homeless and destitute. It was right there. It wasn't a prediction. It was just guessing. This is what's going to happen because you guys are losers, basically. So yeah, I wasn't predicting the future. I was just saying this is where it's going to go if you end up being, an evil person. You're going to end up. Well, not all of them are evil, but all of the management at that place was totally evil. Not everybody's evil for being homeless. Just that guy. Okay, that guy's evil. Right. Okay. And yeah, there he was. He absolutely lost his shit. I was like, oh, dude, this guy's gonna freak it out. And I was like, here's my chips that I just got. You can have them. You can have your chips. I'm going to move on now. I walked, and he got really mad, and he crushed the chips. And other people were watching. There were people on the street. They were watching him. They were like, San Jose State. They were like, near San Jose State. They were like, what's that guy's problem? You offered him chips. He's freaking out. I said, I don't know. He's crazy, I guess. I guess I shouldn't have done that. But yeah. Mark's Cards kind of didn't believe this story, even though it's in the journal. It's in there. It's canon. Also, the sequel is canon. He and the other dude, who was one of the managers, one of the other two on the manager, who was a little bigger and he was a little less slovenly, appeared several years after that. I think it was either 2017 or 2018, somewhere around there. 2018, I think. It was 2018, and they were on the street. And they both had the same epiphany. They saw me again. But then I was dressed as a Star Trek person, so it was a little different. They're like, oh, he's in a costume shop or something. They saw me, and I didn't give them anything, but the other guy remarked. He said, like, oh, yeah, didn't that guy say that we were going to become, like, destitute or something? And the he goes, oh, we did. I saw him earlier, 5 years ago. Oh. So, yeah, that's my story. They were both out there destitute. So, yeah. It's not cool that they're destitute. It's cool that those particular people were. That's fine, because they were evil. And a number of things happened to them, and yeah, they were evil. We won't say who they were, but they were just. I think they're probably in the journal. It'll have to be names. Will have to be changed if they are. But yeah, that's the story. It's not much of a story. The other stories included ex-girlfriends and things that I was discussing yesterday, and some of the other ones, and of Q&A questions were asked, such as that. Later on, were there any other dating stories, type of things? Because after all, I had nosed in and asked Mark's Cards about dating a couple of times in there, and he didn't want to answer. Later on, he clarified and answered. Said, today, in 20, around, in this current time period, in 2021, if she was a furry, he would go off. So now we know that he likes furries. So. But yes, and I figure if she's like, The credo of dating stuff. I had mentioned I saw a list of what that ideal dating partner woman would be years ago when I was reading it. I thought it's very similar to today, but slightly refined. This was a couple of years ago. They wrote it in the journal, right? And there were a bit too stipulations, vanity type of things in there that didn't need to be there. But the impetus on the thing was because we went to Pine Hill and we met crazy ladies, and then in college met crazy ladies, and in Junction 1 met crazy ladies. They want to date a crazy lady. So the stipulation was that if the lady was normal because she was on medication that was making her normal, no. Done with that. Not doing that. Already done that stuff. Normal just for being normal. How about that? Now, if she's already nuts, then no, that's not good either. She's on drugs, that's not good either. Yeah, you don't want to. I don't want that drama or being crazy for being crazy's sake, like some of the male characters in the series that glommed onto us during the years. As well, not for anything, but other than they wanted to get girls, and they thought that I knew them, and they didn't. I knew people from church, but there were a couple of guys that were like obsessed with getting girls, to the point that it was ridiculous, to the point that I was not a counselor, could not actually direct them. And it was in the early days of the internet when I think I mentioned that on the other one. Not going to go into that here because I think I mentioned it. Some of the counselor types complained on the emails and said, "You shouldn't be mean to this guy, even if he's nuts." Of course, the other two would actually talk to him as well, more so than this person. And they're like, "No, he is generally, this guy that Adam knows is generally crazy. And yeah, he shouldn't hang around him because he's generally nuts." So this other guy, this dude from the church that was only there to pick up girls. I'm not going to name his name because there were at least two, so you won't be able to figure out who it is. There's at least two or three. Yeah, he was genuinely nuts. Yeah, so it's a church guy. Not somebody from Pine Hill. It was somebody else. Could have gone to Pine Hill. He was in the area, ballpark. Also, because they have autism and Asperger's, you'd think that they would say, "Oh, find somebody that has autism, that's on the spectrum, date them." It's like, no, have they not heard of, when they make this statement, which is really stupid, have they not heard opposites attract? So therefore, people that are alike repel. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work because, yeah, you would have no. It would go. It wouldn't work. Autistic spectrum thing now. See the little details, social communications, and it's kind of scrubbed a little bit. One of my nephews has something similar, but it's not exactly. It's also like that. He can work, though. He can carry a job. He can work. It's a different version. It's communication dissociative kind of thing. It's a little different. It's more like the OCD end. This is Asperger's is not the OCD end. There's a spectrum, so it's more like the OCD end. But retail. I've done several retail things that haven't worked, and retail doesn't work for me because it's a lot of social interaction. It just doesn't work. They feel uncomfortable or weird or something about it and can't nail it, and then they just fire me. So retail's not a good fit. Don't put this guy in retail. He isn't. That's what I discovered at that job club later on. That's mentioned in the stories, but not last night. It was a job club. I constantly would meet other people from the past there too, in different places. Mark Scars wasn't sure about that. Yeah. So, but most of the later seasons are canon. We weren't misremembering stuff. And also, we figured out where not Sandy from Junction 1, but Sandy from Pine Hill had actually reappeared. And it wasn't during the pub scene in the 90s. It was later. It was during the one of the shoreline episodes. That was Shoreline. I worked at Shoreline a couple times. It was a big amphitheater, outdoor amphitheater. And she was at one of those, and she was in that episode. So it was conflated because it was a similar place. It looked similar, but in the journal, it's there. It was a Shoreline amphitheater. And yeah, she was there. Doesn't matter, really. As for the dating scene, I did date somebody that was on the spectrum. Much after she was over 25 or so. It was in the around 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. Somebody from the church. We went to a movie. After it was weird because there was like a counseling session, which is common during the college years, and I was helping out in the college group. I was back in the college group helping it out because I just didn't want to leave. I went back to San Jose State in 2006, 2009, and then I was pulled back into the college group, help out in the college group for a couple of years. So I was in the college group, even though they kicked me out of that one, but not for anything bad, just because my sister got paranoid. She's like, oh, someday in the future, my niece is going to be there and she'll be embarrassed or something. That was the story. And it was like, well, I seriously doubt she'll even be interested. Sure enough, she wasn't. By the time she was old enough to be in the college group, many years later, she didn't even go to it. She could go to it now, but she doesn't. And now she'd be, for a couple of years she would be in it if she was. She's not. I wasn't interested. But anyway, all for nothing. Also, there was the same person that was on Switch. There was a counseling thing. Well, during all of that, she had. Well, the I guess the date blossomed into rumors, but there was nothing to it. I kept telling the pastor guy there was nothing to it, and the rumors went on, and they were like, "That's what." So that some of that was in there, so it wasn't creepy. It was just rumors that nothing happened. We just see a kids movie. It was really innocent, just like nothing at all, other than laughing about the food truck. They could have asked, but they didn't. They just said, he's too old for the college group. What they should have said was, okay, what happened on the... Okay, we'll nose in and ask you what happened on the date. I'll tell them nothing. Because we were too much alike. Yeah, we're still friends. Before the COVID thing happened, we were joking about the Doolittle movie. She liked it, I hated it. So, yeah. So she's still around. But during the COVID, I haven't heard anything about her. But yeah, that's my one. Well, one of the date stories. There's other stories, but that was the more recent. That was most recent, 2012, 13. So that's not very exciting. I know it's not. You thought it was going to be like a big deal, but no, it didn't work out because on the spectrum, also on the spectrum, it didn't work out. Too much alike. We're friends, but too much alike. So, and that pastor dude, honestly, the dude that was there at the time, not there anymore, he had issues, so, of his own. He shouldn't have been worried about that, because there were plenty of other people that had actual issues there. Won't go into those at all, because why? You don't know what they are. Yeah, it was funny that one person was one lady with the kids was actually a Jung Swan student. That was interesting. Anyway, so it happened a couple of times, and also I have to clarify another thing. There's actually an error. There was a character named, let's call her Jennifer, but it's not Jennifer. It's another Jennifer, who worked at McDonald's, not Michelle Heck. The one that actually, I just named another name, but this doesn't matter. Michelle Heck. Okay, not Michelle, it was Jennifer. Okay, so that one time about the guy with the, it was in the journal later on, so I found it. There was a guy on Facebook complaining that his favorite porn theater, it was a sex, like a S&M shop that had gone under. He was sad about his S&M shop. I know nothing about what this guy was on about. I don't know anything about the S&M shop. But apparently one of the people that once ran the water slide. That was the topic. There was a water slide in Milpitas. His brother went on to run the sex shop. And it had nothing to do with the water slide park story. It was none. And it's common with blogs. People will often ramble on about other stuff that has nothing to do with the topic. And then they run off on a tangent. So, yeah, this guy was going to run off on a tangent. Well, his sad about the Power Crew Club. Power Club or whatever it was. I stopped him. I said, oh, the topic is the Milpitas water slide from the 80s. Not the Power Club in the 2000s. It's not the same thing. We're not talking about. He threw a hissy fit. Pages and pages of hissy fit. Anyway, Michelle of Jung Swan. Not from McDonald's. Michelle of Jung Swan pops in. That makes more sense. Okay, it's Anna's friend. It's the Russian date girlfriend that I dated from Jung Swan. It's her friend. Pops in. So it's somebody from Jung Swan. Used to be Jung Swan. Pops in and goes, stop that. Stop being an asshole. Ah. She yells at him. Get out of here, we'll ban you. Ah. It was like, so it was a Jung Swan person. So let's clarify who that was. It was not a McDonald's person. It was a Jung Swan person. Yeah. So yeah. Actually, the Michelle person is related to the lady that got screwed by the gurus. The guru tried to take her inheritance. That was that lady. Ooh, it's a different person. So yeah, it was that lady. She was moderating the blogs. She popped in. I can ban you. Ah. It's the other guy. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about the water slide. Asshole. Ooh, quit bringing up that topic. Ah. Ooh, sex shop. 50 Shades of Grey was around, so maybe he just wanted to talk about that. He was into that. That's not. Oh yeah, and then Twilight back in the day. Also. Mark's Cards had written a book called a little short story for short story class because he went back when I did, the 2000s. Twilight and Sea of Bones. And the other students didn't want to read it because they thought it was a Twilight fanfic because Twilight had just come out. True story. He's like, oh, Twilight. Oh. Yeah, that was pretty big. That was a pretty big, well-known thing back then. That movie, right? Based on those books, it was totally well-known to the youth group. Paid attention. Don't call it Twilight anything. You'll get it confused. Twilight fanfic. Anyway, so this is the closing moments of this story. Twilight fanfic. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. That's it. AdamaCon2.